this whole capacity, or one can say the ability to mold yourself and to just adapt in any given situation, isn't it? You agree?
Yeah.
Right? So this year, as Neha said, that we are celebrating the 101st International Women's Day, and one of the agenda is to empower rural women. You know, for all these years, women all across the world have created or carved a niche in so many fields, literature, movies, you know, even pilots. I mean, you name it, we are there, isn't it? And this will be a huge boost in the development or in the whole overall development of a woman globally, right? I also want to add one thing that, and I'm also proud of it, that 90% of people who run this academy are women. So one more applause to them. And most of them are here. We heard a lot about homeopathy, but I know you all have been our patients, some have heard, some have seen things, but I would just like to give you a little bit my own example, and from that I can tell you what we can understand about homeopathy. You know, few days back I had to go for a US visa application because there is a very important conference happening and I have to represent the academy. So it's very important I get it, yeah? And when I went there, you know, of course I had heard a lot of things from people that they can simply reject you for no reason. So when I went there, it's a big room and there's rows of chairs lying there and all the applicants are waiting, praying, reciting. They are all reciting their dialogues, what to tell the officer. And there is several windows where these officers are sitting, shooting questions, one after the other. And you are seated there. I sat on the first row and I saw that there was this one officer. They are all foreign people, and he just started asking questions to another applicant. What's your name? What's your purpose for travel? What's your nature of work? Etc. Just shooting. And suddenly a thought came to my mind. This officer is so terrifying. And then with that thought, a whole surge of anxiety, it crept in me. So, coldness, how typically you feel before your exams or say before an interview, coldness of fingertips, palpitations, restlessness, and you feel, oh my God, why did the hell I have to become a dean of the academy and come for this whole thing? But that's a whole reaction. But now, if you look back, what I did that, okay, Meghna, just calm down, just relax, take a deep breath. And when I tried doing that, it gave me a space. It gave me a space to look back into myself. And what I realized that terrifying was an image which my mind had created. Yeah? You follow? Just stay with me. So that officer was not terrifying. Poor thing, he was doing his job. And he was doing it fine, and I had to do my job. Just go and answer his questions. But my mind had created an image of a person which was not true. And that altered perception, it brought about symptoms. Yeah? So, that whole altered perception, it caused anxiety, coldness, etc., etc. It's a bit like this. So when we say disease, in homeopathy we believe that disease comes from a certain delusion, which means you create an altered perception of something which is not true. And when that happens, a lot of times with self-realization, you can feel better, like how I felt better and I got my visa. Okay? But a lot of times, that altered perception becomes so strong into you, it almost possesses your being. Yeah? And then you're completely taken over by it. And then your real personality just gets shadowed by it. And whatever you do, whatever you react, your likes, dislikes, everything is taken over by this delusion. You follow it? Good. So it's like this, you know. You really don't have muscles, but you'll feel like that. So in homeopathy, what we do is that we give you a medicine which is like tailor-made for you after understanding this whole pattern of this altered perception, which is expressed through your physical problems, which is expressed through your interest, hobbies, dreams, likes, dislikes, everything. That's why we ask you so many questions. And there's a whole process of case taking. If you've been through it, it's a careful investigation into this delusionary world. So we try and disconnect you from a present into a state which you may have also not realized. You follow it? So the medicine, what we give, if you do a laboratory testing, you will not really find a chemical substance or anything into it. But what it carries is an energy. Yeah? And what that energy does is, it brings you closer to yourself. It's the realization. The medicine makes you realize your altered perception. Is it okay? Yeah. The medicine makes you realize that you are acting from a delusion. You follow it? And that leads to cure. One more example, if I give you, or maybe we can just go through this. So, just quickly, PMS. We spoke a lot about stresses and illnesses suffered by modern age women. Women of today faces a lot of challenges apart from men. Yeah. And many illnesses. And of course, as I was just going through it, there are different ways of what PMS can be. So it can be like, pass my shotgun, or pardon my sobbing, plainly men suck, people make me sick, psychotic mood shift. So basically PMS stands, but this is a whole symptomatology, okay? So what exactly PMS is the kind of symptoms that a woman develops a week before the periods, right? There is no specific cause for it. What Dr. Devya said, that there is this whole change in the progesterone, that could be, but as such there is no specific cause of why a woman suffers from PMS. So there are many other things like, mood swings, where someone would feel, you always feel that everyone around is a problem a week before the monthly cycle. Or the next head is tempting enough for a batting practice. So there are a lot of symptoms that come up at the emotional level, a little bit like this. Or maybe like this. It's very interesting, Sigmund Freud, if people who have heard about him, he said that the great question that has never been answered and which I have not yet been able to to answer despite my 30 years of research into feminine solace, what does a woman want? I think he wouldn't have a better answer. The state at that time becomes so intense. You're?
I'm happy the men are not there.
Yeah. More symptoms like acne, tender breasts, joint pains. One would also tend to feel a lot of fatigue, weakness, insomnia, or maybe hypersomnia. Headaches, a lot of change in your appetites, like you can have increased appetite or you can have completely loss of appetite. A lot of women also have craving for sweets, chocolates look very, very tempting at that time, starchy food, difficulty in concentration. So a whole gamut of symptoms. There's another problem which is called premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is a more severe form of PMS. So sometimes we often hear of women who gets into a really erratic state. They could actually get into suicidal impulses or probably homicidal impulses, very, very violent state. So this is another form of premenstrual syndrome. This is very rare, thankfully. But the symptoms of this problem can be very debilitating. It actually can disrupt a woman's life and relations. So there are several measures one can think of, which is looking into your diet, especially before the periods, to avoid food which can create a lot of stimulation, which is caffeine, tea, alcohol. Exercise is one thing which if somebody follows regularly. Also, yoga is very helpful. We have seen meditation because it brings you closer to yourself. Now, PMS and homeopathy, as Dr. Delia said, that because there is no specific cause, but there is a whole gamut of symptoms, right? So, what best they can do is they give you painkillers, they give you antispasmodics, but that's very local, right? Now in homeopathy, as I said, that we look into the whole cause of the problem. So why would a woman suffer from PMS? Why would one woman just feel like giving a slap? Why would one woman feel like choking someone's throat? Why would one woman feel like stabbing someone's? Yeah? So we have to look into the peculiarities of every symptom. So just the whole level of how we go into your problem is, one is we understand the problem itself, right, which is the name of the problem. Then we get into the facts, which means what are the symptoms, right? Sorry. And then we get from the symptoms into an emotional state, and from the emotional we get into the delusional state. And from that, then we understand whether you belong to somebody who's extremely sensitive and reactive, which we saw in the skit, which is a plant kind of personality, or you are someone who sees everything as a survival mechanism, where you feel it's always you versus the other person. It's always a feeling that who is strong, who is weak, who is superior, who is inferior. That's an animal-like personality. And the third is a mineral-like, where the entire focus is on your money, relations, house, things like that.